1 minute for Vice President Biden.
Yes.
Yes, 1 moment for Vice President Biden. President Poroshenko?
Yes.
1 moment for Vice President Biden.
That's Finland.
Who is President Joe Biden? Elected under uncertain conditions. What does he represent and how does he exercise his power?
We did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
We don't really know anything about this elderly man who has been behind the scenes of power for a long time and who sometimes seems to be in other worlds. Is he dangerous or just senile? Are we at the brink of a new world war or at the brink of his final retirement? However, Biden's election as president was not a cinch. More than 80 million Americans consider the presidential election to be stolen from the voters, and Biden to be a fake president who got his new position by fraudulent means. The United States is strongly divided in its attitude towards Biden. When the presidential election result was confirmed in January 2020, it was a near miss that the country would not be in chaos. Thousands protested in Washington and hundreds took over the Capitol buildings while Biden's election was being confirmed after a questionable process. The situation was starting to look like a coup, or a counter-coup if you think Biden first seized power in a dishonest election. After all, maybe half of American voters think so. US domestic politics is still in chaos. Biden has a long history behind the scenes of US foreign policy, where he is known as the shadow regional leader of many Eastern European countries, the Gauleiter, who determines the composition of governments and exercises supreme political power.
That's Finland.
Biden played an important role in US-Eastern relations as early as in the 1970s. Then Senator Biden visited Moscow in 1979 to negotiate a SALT agreement restricting long-range missiles. Biden's important role in Moscow continued until the end of Soviet Union's existence. Here in Moscow, in 1988, Biden met Andrei Gromyko, one of the most recent Soviet leaders and the long-serving Soviet foreign minister. When Biden was finally president, after the chaotic election and the storming of the Capitol, his first job was to agree with Putin on the continuation of the START deal. Biden seems to have been able to monopolize for decades US relations with Eastern Europe and Russia, a difficult area from which many other politicians would like to stay as far away as possible. Biden has become a self-declared Gauleiter, a regional leader who actually has a free hand to run his own plot in Eastern Europe and Russia. But now he's also a president. All the major US institutions are his instruments to accomplish his goals. But has Biden brought happiness to his people? Who exactly is Joe Biden and where does his presidency lead?
Donald Trump thinks healthcare is a privilege. Barack and I think it's a right for people to have bad health care.
Fear is in the air.
Like every Gauleiter, Gauleiter Biden also has his own darker side. After the breakup of the Soviet Union, Biden had a free rein to act as he wished in the newly independent East European countries, which suffered from poverty and political turmoil caused by the breakup of the Soviet Union. The best-known case is the one of Ukraine. The US orchestrated two revolutions in Ukraine, the Orange Revolution in the fall of 2004 and the coup in the spring of 2014, which eventually led to the actual disintegration of the country. US tactics have been to support Ukraine's far-right groups and movements and to incite them to war against Russia. To culminate this, the Ukrainian far-right usurped power in the March 2014 coup. But Biden did not get what he wanted, that is, a US naval military base at the Crimean Peninsula. In March 2014, Russia made a surprise move by incorporating the Crimean Peninsula to the Russian territory and receiving full support from the people of Crimea. This was a clear humiliation for Biden. After all, his task as the Gauleiter of Ukraine was to make the US Navy control the Black Sea from a Crimean base. Since then, the US has been hatching revenge. Perhaps Gauleiter Biden is now dreaming of a blitzkrieg, a lightning war to return Donbas and Crimea back to US control.
Today, Russia is occupying sovereign Ukrainian territory. Let me be crystal clear. The United States does not, will not, never will recognize Russia's attempt to annex to Crimea.
As soon as he became president in March 2021, Biden harmed relations between Russia and the United States, calling Russian President Putin a killer who still has to pay for his actions. That was not only a direct and clear threat, but also an insult towards the Russian people. Soon, US began large-scale preparations for war in the east, and Ukraine announced its goal of restoring Crimea by force. Ukrainian armies resumed terrorist bombings in the settlements of Donbas, where thousands have already been killed. The tactic of the US is to dam Russia's influence in all of Russia's new neighbors and to promote the expansion of the NATO military alliance to the east. Because Russia's neighbors are different, US policy varies from country to country. Some countries are in practice occupation zones under US control, such as Germany or the Baltic states, and in some neutral countries such as Finland, Sweden, Austria or Ireland, the US is trying to increase NATO support by all possible means in which our Gauleiter is a true master. Biden has also a special relationship with Finland. As Finland prepared for the centenary of its independence, Joe Biden gave a New Year's speech to the Finnish people as if they were Gauleiter's subordinates.
I had the great honor of visiting Finland back in 2011, and I took my now 18-year-old granddaughter to meet the then president at the time, Halonen, because I wanted her to see the progressive ways of Finland. And I remember talking to my granddaughter about how important it was that Finland's Finland's president was a woman. And my granddaughter didn't miss a beat, and she calls me Pop. She said, "Pop, do you realize that 40% of their parliament are women too?" That's Finland.
Stealing this opportunity from the Finnish President Sauli Niinistö, Biden held a TV speech praising Finnish women on New Year's Eve 2016. Whereas Biden's tactic in Donbas is to bomb civilians, in Finland it is to praise women. Praising women has proven to be just as effective, but much cheaper.
That's Finland.
But both have the same goal: NATO enlargement and increasing US influence. Although Biden has a special relationship with all of Russia's neighbors, most is known about Biden's relationship with Ukraine. Biden has long considered Ukraine his own and dictated its main policies and the composition of the government. This emerges from a recorded telephone conversation between US Secretary of State John Kerry and then Vice President Biden and with then President of Ukraine Poroshenko. The telephone conversations show that the Ukraine is completely under US control. Ukrainian politics was steered by the Gauleiter. Kerry and Poroshenko spoke on the phone on December 3, 2015. Kerry demanded that Poroshenko dismiss Ukraine's chief persecutor Viktor Shokin before Biden's visit. Kerry explained that Shokin needs to be replaced because Biden is very worried about him. Shokin must be out of office before Biden's visit to Ukraine.
But before Vice President Biden comes, I just wanted to try to urge you to see if there's a way to get by this problem of replacing the Prosecutor General, Shokin, because from our perception, he's blocked the cleanup of the Prosecutor General's office, and I know the Vice President is very concerned about it, and I think it'd be good to try to have some resolution of that before the Vice President comes, if it's possible.
As US is an important sponsor for the current Ukrainian chaotic regime, the request for personnel replacements prior to Gauleiter's visit can also be considered a condition for monetary grants. It's highly likely that it is exactly what Kerry also means when he calls for Shokin to be fired before Biden's visit. This is clear from the telephone conversation between Biden and President Poroshenko recorded on 22nd of March 2016. Poroshenko apparently had not fully understood Kerry's hint of making the necessary personnel changes before Biden's visit. So Biden goes much more straightforward and offers a bribe to get the person changes to his model.
Assuming that there is a new government and a new prosecutor general, I am prepared to do a public signing of the commitment for the $1 billion.
The representative of the US Supreme Power thus offers monetary transaction for personnel exchanges in the Ukrainian administration. But why is it so important for Kerry and Biden to change the chief prosecutor of Ukraine? The answer is easy. Biden's son Hunter and Kerry's family friend Devon Archer had been appointed to the board of directors of the Ukrainian energy company Burisma. The Ukrainian prosecutor's office began investigating Burisma's activities until Kerry and Biden pressured chief prosecutor Viktor Shokin to resign. The investigation was also suspended. By the way, in Ukraine, the post of the chief prosecutor is much more than just the head of the prosecutor's office. It includes the duties of the Minister of Justice in many countries. The chief prosecutor is the chief justice, the highest and the most important position in the judiciary. This shows how important the US consider the control of the Ukrainian judiciary by offering a large bribe. Today, we can say that the Gauleiter set the price of the Ukrainian legal system at $1 billion. But let's return to Finland. Biden has noticed that he can get Finland much cheaper. Gauleiter seems to have come to the conclusion that Finns can be bribed to his side by glorifying Finnish women. This will be much cheaper for the US, but the benefit is still exactly the same as a $1 billion bribe. Biden's please smile is worth noting when a mere gleaming praise is enough to bribe, without having to rip $1 billion in cash from the American people.
Gender equality is a high priority for Finland.
To advance equality and opportunity for all, to leave our world a better place.
We believe that a strong society is inclusive, equal and respectful of human rights.
Future generations, it seems like it's stamped into the DNA of every Finn.
Biden has made Finland a humble ally without any bloodshed, unlike in Ukraine. Here, the flattery towards women is enough for the Gauleiter to declare that Finns and Americans stand together for democracy.
That's Finland.
By the way, the Finnish government is also standing on at least as questionable grounds as Biden in the US. When democracy was run down in Finland and the elections were cancelled in the spring of 2021, the hefty Prime Minister Sanna Marin pulled another trump card out of her sleeve. The Finnish government had commissioned a study from the NATO military alliance in which citizens' criticism of the government was branded as hate speech against women. Biden was certainly pleased and willing to give NATO support for the female team, which he had managed to bribe with his sticky praise. It's probably the cheapest bribe in the US administration has ever paid to get another country under the exclusive control of the Gauleiter. No wonder why Biden loves Finland.
Seems like happiness is just a thing called Joe. President Joe. President Joe. President Joe.
We did it, Joe. You're gonna be the next president of the United States.